A little while back, we made a video about 10 motorcycles that were made or modified for military use. You guys seem to enjoy it, so we thought we'd take a quick look at 5 more, starting with as seen in the video by Fortnite, the Kawasaki KLR 650 is a cheap and simple, but virtually indestructible machine. So it was no surprise when Hayes Diversified Technologies of Hesperia, California chose it as the base for their military motorcycle project. Hayes had won a contract to supply the US military with an all-terrain motorcycle that could run on jet propellant fuel, more specifically JP8. This kerosene-based fuel is used by the military in everything from generators to M1 tanks and, of course, aircraft. HDT strip away unnecessary components from the KLR, such as the balancing system that reduces vibration in an effort to lighten the machine. Naturally, they also make quite a few changes to the engine, with only the main casing and transmission surviving the transition. The piston and cylinder are replaced and other components changed to accept the much higher compression ratio that diesel engines demand. Though the KLR was by no means a quick and nimble beast, the switch to diesel power makes it even more of a thumper, but one that will go on until the end of the world. Along with the reduction in weight, it also massively improves the bike's fuel economy, doubling its mile per gallon over the petrol-driven original. It does lose a few horses, however, going from 37 horsepower to around 24 horsepower, but it can still hit 90 miles an hour. There have been several updates over the years, with the latest model having the ability to run on JP4, 5 and 8, kerosene, diesel or biodiesel. HDT also make a civilian version, though there is a long waiting list and it will set you back a cool $18,500. From a bike that runs on jet fuel to one that's powered by electricity, the MMX from Zero Motorcycles. Zero are at the forefront of the push for electric motorcycles, the Tesla of 2 wheels. Despite their innovations, a common complaint from those that prefer the more traditional combustion engine is that electric bikes are just too quiet. Well, that minus is a big plus if you're scouting behind enemy lines or on a shady Black Ops mission. The MMX has a range of 90 miles on one charge and has hot swappable batteries, a maximum speed of 85 miles an hour and weighs in at 275 pounds with the ability to carry up to 355 pounds. As cool as it may seem, it's actually not a million miles from their civilian FX series of motorcycles. Something that is very different, however, is the US military's other electric option. Bridging the gap between the super silent MMX and more traditional motorcycles is the Silent Hawk, a DARPA project developed by Alta Motors, creators of fully electric off-road bikes, and Logos Technologies, who produce military drones and sensors, amongst other things. The Silent Hawk is all-wheel drive and can run on JP5, 8 and diesel, creating up to 75 decibels of sound, or roughly as much noise as a vacuum cleaner. Should you need to be quieter, however, the Silent Hawk can switch to full electric mode, bringing it down to just 55 decibels, or the level of a normal conversation. From something cutting edge and futuristic to a military scooter from yesteryear, the Cushman Model 53. Known as the Parascooter, this machine was the United States answer to the Royal Enfield WD-RE or Well bike, in so much as it was developed to be a lightweight machine to be dropped along with the paratroopers, allowing them to hit the ground running. As with many other things, the American machine was a little chunkier than its British counterparts, where the Well bike weighed in at 71 pounds and the WD-RE 130 pounds. the Model 53 tipped the scale at a chunky 254 pounds. It was powered by a one-cylinder kick-started 4.6 horsepower engine with roller-bearing crankshaft and two-speed gearbox. The power scooter could also carry a 250-pound load and use pneumatic tires that were the same size as those on airplanes, so as to be interchangeable. It was also able to tow cars and trucks in low gear. It also had the option of pulling an ammo cart and 50 cal machine gun. Cushman made several variants for the US Army during World War II, with them supplying some 15,000 scooters in all. Many 53s were airdropped into France after D-Day by the 101st and 82nd Airborne Division, with more than a few being left behind when the GIs moved on. As for Cushman, they suffered a decline post-war, with their civilian models not selling as well as they'd hoped. The company was eventually sold to Outboard Marine Company in 1957. The factory where all those wartime machines were built has since been flattened in order to make way, yes, you guessed it, for a car park. The S.E.V.I.T.A.M.E was a military motorcycle that didn't get to deliver on its early promise. During the 1930s, the French army were looking for a reliable motorized replacement for horses and took a keen interest in motorcycles. They wrote up a long list of requirements that the new machine would have to meet, and this included a need for the engine assembly to have the ability to be submerged, either partially or completely, and still run. They also requested that the final drive transmission be by means other than chain, and that it be possible to dismantle the bike in just a few minutes into sections easy enough to transport with little effort. Marcel Violet and Achille Vincent, excuse the pronunciation, were the men tasked with creating a prototype that met the needs of the French army, and that they did. In 1938, the army tested their newly built amphibious motorcycle and quickly put it into production, giving it the acronym name of S.E.V.I.T.A.M.E. The finished machine had a 314cc two-stroke inverted inline twin engine, oil-cooled and with a 4-speed gearbox. The frame consisted of two pressed metal sections connected to either end of the engine, and, just as the French army had wished, the bike could be split into 3 sections in just a few minutes with the removal of 4 bolts. The rear mudguard section housed the fuel tank, battery and toolbox. When dismantled, the engine could also be used as an outboard motor. So why didn't this all-terrain motorcycle take off? Well, timing. Several models were built in 1939 and sent to Poland just before the invasion by Germany and Russia. These machines are presumed to have been destroyed, with the factory eventually becoming occupied and all materials being commandeered. It's said that a factory worker managed to escape with one of the machines, and that this is the sole surviving machine. Husqvarna have a long history of creating non-bike related equipment, probably most famously their range of lawnmowers and other gardening equipment. Back in their native Sweden, however, they're seen as more of an equivalent to Britain's BSA and are known for manufacturing firearms-based equipment for Swedish armed forces. Naturally, they also supplied motorcycles, and these were often based on road-going machines. This was until 1971, when Swedish forces put forward a list of requirements they needed for their next machine. These included a need for the bike to be lightweight, off-road capable, able to carry 2 soldiers, and with Sweden's mix of different terrains, they had to have the option of having skis fitted. They also asked that this new motorcycle have an automatic transmission. This was because they found that new recruits often found it difficult to master changing gears on a motorcycle, which led them to burning out clutches and having accidents. Not something you want on the battlefield. The Swedish Army touted these requirements around several manufacturers, and it was actually a company called Högland who won the contract, but because of their small factory size, they were told they would have to team up with Husqvarna to produce the new bike. Husqvarna made a few tweaks to the design, mostly so they could incorporate many of their pre-existing parts, and in 1980 the first Husqvarna Model 258 rolled out of the factory. It utilized a single-cylinder 250cc air-cooled two-stroke engine and, of course, an automatic transmission. This essentially means that as you smash about off-road, you can crunch through the gears without a clutch like you'd grind through the gears on a Honda Cub. Sadly though, they weren't built in anywhere near as many numbers. Just 3,000 were supplied. Of the 3,000, 1,000 were scrapped or sold on, with the other 2,000 being transferred over to the Swedish Voluntary Motorcycle Corps. And there you have it, another selection of two-wheeled war machines. If you'd like to see another in this mini-series, give this video a thumbs up and let us know in the comments which bikes you'd like to see in the next list. Right then, you've been told. On your bike,